In the fast-paced, ever-watching world of K-pop, coincidences rarely stay just coincidences for long. Every glance, every step, every shared frame becomes something fans replay, analyze, and quietly hold on to. And when it comes to BTS, there is one pattern that has continued to catch attention over the years, something subtle, yet persistent. As if guided by something unseen, Jungkook always seems to end up where Jimin is. It's not something that can be explained through a single moment. Rather, it is a collection of countless instances layered over time. Backstage footage, rehearsals, award shows, behind-the-scenes clips, no matter the setting, there is a recurring sense of proximity between them. Even when they start out apart, somehow, naturally, they drift back into each other's space. It doesn't feel staged or intentional. If anything, it feels instinctive. For longtime fans, this isn't new. The dynamic between Jungkook and Jimin has been quietly unfolding since their trainee days. They entered a demanding environment at a young age, learning, growing, and facing pressure together. In such conditions, people often form bonds that go beyond surface-level friendship. There is comfort in familiarity, strength in shared struggle, and a kind of unspoken understanding that develops when two people spend years navigating the same path. Jungkook, being the youngest, has always had a unique relationship with each member. But with Jimin, there is a noticeable ease, something soft and unguarded. Around Jimin, Jungkook often appears more relaxed, more expressive in subtle ways. And Jimin, in return, seems to naturally take on a role that is both supportive and emotionally present. Their interactions rarely demand attention, yet they consistently draw it. What makes their connection particularly fascinating is how it reveals itself in the smallest details. It's not always about grand gestures or obvious displays. Sometimes, it's a brief moment, a quick glance across a room that turns into a shared smile. Other times, it's something even more understated, like the way Jungkook unconsciously moves closer when Jimin is nearby, or how Jimin seems to notice him without needing to look directly. There are moments when the group is scattered, each member engaged in their own activity, yet somehow, Jungkook and Jimin end up side by side again. Not in a way that interrupts anything, but in a way that feels natural, almost expected. It's this quiet consistency that has led fans to describe their dynamic as something like gravitational. As if, no matter where they start, they are always gently pulled back together. Of course, interpretations vary. Some see it as nothing more than a deep and genuine friendship built over years of shared experience. Others feel there is something more nuanced, something emotional that doesn't need to be defined to be understood. But perhaps the most meaningful perspective lies somewhere in between. Not everything needs a label to be real. Sometimes, what matters is simply the presence of a connection that feels sincere. In an industry where so much can be carefully managed or presented for the camera, authenticity becomes incredibly valuable. And what stands out about Jungkook and Jimin is that their moments rarely feel forced. They don't seem to perform their closeness, it simply exists. Whether they are laughing together, standing quietly next to each other, or moving in sync without realizing it, there is a sense of ease that is difficult to fabricate. Another layer to this dynamic is the passage of time. People grow, change, and evolve, especially under the spotlight. Relationships shift, priorities change, and yet, some connections remain steady. Over the years, as BTS has reached global heights and experienced both intense pressure and overwhelming success, the familiarity between Jungkook and Jimin has remained a constant thread. It may not always be loud, but it is always there. Fans often find comfort in this. Not because they seek to define the relationship, but because it represents something relatable, finding someone who feels like home, even in the busiest, most chaotic environments. There is something reassuring about seeing two people who, despite everything happening around them, continue to gravitate toward one another in quiet, almost subconscious ways. It's also important to approach this with respect. Observing patterns and appreciating moments is part of being a fan, but assigning definitive narratives to real people can sometimes go too far. Jungkook and Jimin are individuals with their own lives, thoughts, and boundaries. What they choose to share is only a fraction of what they experience. And perhaps, That's what makes these glimpses even more meaningful. They are unspoken, unconfirmed, yet deeply felt. In the end, what keeps people captivated isn't speculation, it's consistency. The way certain patterns repeat without explanation. The way presence can speak louder than words. The way two people can exist within the same space, time and time again, without needing to announce it. As if tied by something unseen, Jungkook is always where Jimin is. And maybe that's not something that needs to be solved or defined. Maybe it's enough to simply notice it, to recognize the quiet pull, the subtle closeness, the moments that pass quickly but linger in memory. Because sometimes, the most genuine connections are the ones that don't try to explain themselves at all.